Okay, so it's 5 past now, so I think we might kick things off. So welcome everybody. My name is Emma Howard, and I am the TU Dublin program chair for this new master's program in global sustainability leadership that we are promoting today. So this is a program in collaboration with UNITAR. It's a really unique offering in the suite of sustainability programs, and we're really excited to be welcoming you here and to be starting the first iteration of the program this September. So today we are going to share with you some stories and some insights from our TU Dublin and from our UNITAR alumni about their experiences on sustainability and leadership programs across the two institutions. But just before we begin, let me tell you a little bit about the new MA program that we're offering in global sustainability leadership. And this is a 2-year program. It is fully online, asynchronous by design. So as you can see, we've got a huge global audience today, and this program will have a global cohort. So we'll have a fully flexible program that will allow you to fit in your learnings around your different jobs, different commitments, different time zones. The program is really focused on sustainability leadership and leading sustainability in whatever institution or whatever role you're in within those institutions, or just as an individual. So we have core modules that students will take in key areas like sustainable economic development. I would say that's a key area because that is the program that the module rather, that I will be lecturing in the first semester on the program. But other core modules such as sustainability leadership and critical thinking, personal development skills, and many others. There's also a degree of flexibility in the program. So we've got a number of elective options each semester that will allow you to specialize in particular areas of sustainability that you might be interested in, such as conflict resolution and peace building, or innovation, social entrepreneurship, and many other areas. So I think my colleague Anna is putting some links into the chat for you. If you want to hear more and get a full overview of our program, you can click on the links, or you can visit our website after the webinar. Details are available both on the UNITAR website and on the TU Dublin website. So I will speak some more at the end about the scholarships that are on offer on the program, and about the flexible payments schedules that we have for the program. But I think given it's nearly 10 past at this point, I'm going to hand you over to our lecturer in sustainability leadership on the program, and our program team member, Ciarán O'Carroll, who is going to lead the discussion with our alumni on their insights and their stories on the impact that their leadership and sustainability education has had on their journey and their careers. So over to you, Ciarán.
Thanks so much, Emma. I'm delighted to be joining you all today. Thank you for tuning into our webinar. I am here in Dublin, lecture at TU Dublin. It is incredibly cold today, and I'm massively regretting just wearing a shirt at this period. I wish I could reach for a duffel coat. Hopefully warm weather will come soon. I hope you're warmer than where I'm here, but I am delighted to be joined by 4 fantastic alumni from our UNITAR and TU Dublin programs. We're so thankful for them giving up their time to share with you their experiences studying on our programs, the skills they've developed, and the leadership capabilities that's allowed them to have. So what we're going to do is I'm going to ask them questions for about half an hour. If you could put questions in the chat, that would be absolutely fantastic. And in the time we have remaining at the end, we'll ask some of those questions in the chat. So let's get started without further ado. I'm just going to ask each of our fantastic panelists if they could just briefly introduce themselves and just tell us a little about their current role. So a little bit of an introduction. And if we could start with you, Julia, that would be great.
Sure. It's such an honor to be here today. And I have to say, my experience with my master's degree program was absolutely transformational. I actually am a dual citizen, even though I sound entirely American. I am a South African citizen as well. I was raised in South Africa in the 1980s. And I always knew that humanitarian work was going to be my purpose. Started doing humanitarian work as soon as I graduated from college in 1996. But prior to that, before I'd gone to college, I had done a year in South Africa, starting a little farm school. And that was really what drove me to study what I studied in college. And then in 1996, I was one of the first people to be able to work in the townships under the presidency of Nelson Mandela. So that was an incredible time. And from there, there was just so much hope in the country. And after a few years of doing that work, it just seemed like the country was headed in the direction that I was really hoping for the future of this original home for me. And so I returned to the US at that point. And it was only really in 2017 that I started returning to South Africa on a regular basis. And really, all of my humanitarian work has grown from there. So in 2021, I started the program with UNITAR and Oxford Brookes University. And that really charted the course for me for moving forward with the establishment of my organization now.
Great. Thank you so much, Julia. Fantastic. Atheer, could you go next? Just tell us a little bit about your background and your current role.
Good afternoon, good evening, colleagues. Thank you so much for having me. My name is Atheer Al-Yaseen. I'm architect engineer. I started my career with construction. I had 2 master degrees related to that from the States. My early career started with construction and design. I was lucky to gain valuable experience in landmark projects like Burj Al Arab in Dubai, like the Trade Center in Bahrain and other mega projects in Dubai, Qatar, and Singapore. In some moment, I felt that I want to pay back for my country. So I joined the USAID initiative to train Iraqi engineers on project management. During that, I started working with UNICEF on some of the water and sanitation projects. And that was the turnover to UNICEF and humanitarian development programs in 2000. Since then, I'm with UNICEF. In 2018, I had a deep discussion with regional director for Middle East and North Africa, where the needs are enormous, humanitarian needs, I mean. And the question was, and the discussion about prioritization. And that discussion led to a deep question about where is climate change in conflict and fragile contexts. Usually climate change is not in the first 10 pages of these countries. And that somehow led to my 3rd master degree with the support of UNITA to design a framework to prioritize and integrate climate change for fragile countries. And it's now the foundation of my PhD that I'm working on. So with UNICEF, I'm a coordinator, emergency coordinator, program coordinator, depending on what duty station I am. I have 24 years with UNICEF in humanitarian business. I just finished 1 year with Syria. I was supporting them with the earthquake response and heading to Gaza for the early recovery and resilience program end of this month.
Wow, Atheer, that's absolutely incredible. Thank you for sharing your experiences with us, and we look forward to definitely look forward to coming back and asking you further questions. But that's absolutely remarkable what you're doing. Etáin, can I ask you next if you can give us a little bit about your background and what your current role is?
Yeah, for sure. So my name's Etáin. Thanks everyone for dialing in today. It's a hugely interesting topic with loads of perspectives, which is always nice to hear. And my background is marketing, and after training as a marketeer, my education led me from Europe to Australia to Germany. But from the age of 14, I pretty much always knew I wanted to work in the family business. So our family business was set up 52 years ago by my dad and my grandfather, and we're a medical device distributor. So we bring in products from all over the world, and we supply them to Little Ireland, and we support them with 24/7 engineering support. So I suppose the company started off with my dad and my granddad in the back of the room of their house, and it's now 80 people strong. And my younger brother is the MD. I tell everyone he got the short straw. And I really enjoy, I suppose, my marketing role is involved. I oversaw a lot of tenders. I did a lot of, I suppose, learning about the products, helping kind of clinical engineers and, find the right products, what they need. But I always knew kind of, I suppose I was having chats with my dad actually about the 80s and 90s and how they got through recessions and how they survived, and how it's so, SMEs are a huge part of the fabric of Ireland, really. They're a huge contributor to society, huge for creating employment. And I suppose the company needs to be sustainable, otherwise we won't be here. And my brother and I want to make it into a multi-generational company. So therefore, at board level, I kind of said, look, someone needs to look at sustainability. And I love when you say these things and suddenly the room goes silent and all eyes are on you. I'm like, fine, I'll go and do it. So I researched a few courses, and I suppose there's some options for people. You can go and do the quick, 6-8 week courses, or you can really go and delve and dive in deep. And I'm just really pleased the TU course I picked, because there was something kind of for everyone. There was a huge kind of, broad understanding, and yet you could, really understand the bits that were relevant to you. And then because there was a bespoke project as well, you could make it very relevant to what you need to do. So my job was then to come back, present this to the board to make sure it got accepted, and then drive out the transformation, which I'm doing at the moment. And I suppose we were getting a lot of tenders. Ironically, the first sustainability question was on a software tender for medical equipment. But really, I was told at the time, look, it's not a great time to do the course, and it's really hectic at work. And I said, it's never a good time. It's like having kids. It's never a good time to do a course. But I can't, and everyone now is like, thank God you did the course, because now the tender questions have just come in thick and fast. Someone has to be accountable, really, is what I came to the end of the day. I said, I'll be accountable for it. And it's something that's going to affect all of us. And it's not that it should be someone has to answer the questions, but how can we all work together? And it's about even having conversations with our suppliers and, with the hospitals going, look, we're all aiming for the same, goal. But I suppose for me, it was about learning the language and being able to then find out how we could help and be impactful.
Thank you so much, Etáin. And I think we're already seeing the kind of diverse backgrounds each of you have, from working on water, from working on disaster relief, to Etáin, you're working in a family business. We're looking at all over the world here and how applicable this is for so many different backgrounds and industries and purposes. Alan, over to you. If you could give us a little bit about your background and your role, that would be fantastic.
Sure. Thanks, Kieran and Emma, for the opportunity. Delighted to be here. So Alan Hobbs, I head up the Global Irish Business Unit in Enterprise Ireland. So Enterprise Ireland is a Irish government economic development agency, and we're charged with responsibility for the starting and scaling of Irish industry across the globe. We'd have 50 offices around the world, and we work with about 5,000 companies. So in terms of my own career, I started back in 1990, where I spent 4 years in Taiwan working for the economic agency, trying to attract investment into Ireland. And following that, I moved to Seoul in South Korea. And after 3 years there, we moved to Silicon Valley. And we had 5 years in Silicon Valley, 3 years dot-com boom and 2 years of bust. And it's interesting to see how history often repeats itself, but a fascinating time to be in the Valley. After that, I made a slight change in career, and I moved from the Inward Investment Agency to the Trade Promotion, and I moved to Beijing in China. And we had 4 years in China, where we were trying to open up the Chinese market to Irish innovation. And following that, I returned to Dublin, and I've worked in a whole range of different parts of the organization since then. I was head of communications for 5 years. I worked in our food division and our startup unit. In fact, in our startup unit, we invest in startups here, and we're the largest VC in Europe as well. And for the last 6 months, I've been running Global Irish Business. So how did I get involved in sustainability? And I suppose to place on record, first of all, it was an incredibly rewarding and enriching year that I spent as a colleague of Etáin in TU Dublin. And why I chose TU Dublin was really just the breadth and the diversity within the course. The participants came from a huge range of backgrounds, multicultural, and it gave me a fascinating insight into the whole area of sustainability. I'd been 10 years since I'd gone back to formal education after an MBA, and I was looking at areas to maybe further studies, but I wasn't really prepared to commit to a fairly long-term program. So the 1-year program really suited my needs at the time. And I just found that everywhere I looked and everyone I spoke to, the number one item on the agenda was sustainability. And for me, it was very simple about carbon abatement, and that's the kind of perspective I had. But as I spoke to more people, it became apparent that this is a much wider issue that was there to be addressed. And the TU Dublin course offered me a very, very good grounding across the whole scope of the UN SDGs. So it was a fantastic year that we spent there.
Thank you so much, Alan, and great to hear how much you enjoyed the course. And so it's great. We've met all of our panelists now. Probably people on the webinar are hopefully interested in doing similar course, doing our masters on global sustainability leadership. So probably wondering two things: what kind of skills will I learn, and how will that benefit my career? So if I could ask you, Julia, from your experience of the course that you did, what were the key skills you learned? And number one, and number two, how did it benefit your career?
Yes, thank you so much. What I failed to mention in my introduction is that in between my original humanitarian work in South Africa and my return to humanitarian work in 2017, I had a full career in healthcare here in the US. And while I always knew that really my heart was drawing me back to South Africa to do the humanitarian work, I really felt like I needed to have the educational background that would allow me to have the confidence to do the work in exactly the way I thought it should be done. And I had had enough experience at that point, and then also starting in 2017, that I knew that if I was going to move back into this space, I 100% wanted to do this in a way that really was at the nexus of both people and planet. And so I felt incredibly passionate about not only creating an environment for children to be able to learn in a water secure environment in a school that was, indisputably going to stay open, but also that I wanted to do it in a way that benefited the planet. And as many people know, South Africa is in the midst of an extreme water crisis. And essentially what's happening at many of the rural schools where I'm working is if a school goes too long without water, the school will actually be closed and oftentimes never reopen. And so what was so essential was to look at not only how could we secure water at these schools, but how could we do it in a way that wasn't exacerbating the world water crisis at the same time. And so really what I believe came from my 2 years in my master's degree program was this confidence that I could actually do this in the way that worked. And also that I had the skills that would enable me to learn all of the additional information that I absolutely needed to understand in order to be able to execute in a sustainable manner. I will say that coming out of that program and continuing this work, and also with my burgeoning desire to do a PhD in this space, I absolutely feel at my core that it is essential to do work in the way that this master's degree program that we're talking about today is really preparing people to work. That as we move forward, that the solutions for climate change really need to come out of the regions of the world that are most impacted by climate change, and also that there's no way that we should be doing intervention in a way that is actually exacerbating the very situations that are requiring the intervention in the first place.
Yeah, thank you so much, Julia. Absolutely, and I completely echo the kind of ground from the grassroots up for the people most affected is so important for the development of solutions. And that brings me perfectly onto Atheer. So Atheer, similar question for you. When you think back to the course you did, what were the key learnings that stood out for you, and how have you used them in your career since the course?
Thank you so much. It's a very nice question. Maybe in my case, it was the other way around. Usually, my career is driving my study. So whenever I have a tough question, this is when I rush back to the university to study that subject. The curiosity and the need for knowledge, it's my way to push forward my career. And the other way around, it's my way to contribute back to the academia. So whenever I study a subject, and I mentioned the number of masters and now doing my PhD, it's opening new horizons, not necessarily new jobs for me, but mainly give me the capacity, the ability to identify areas to improve within my current career. And also, this is my way to generate new best practices. So I collaborated with colleagues by studying an exercise made in DRC Congo, the rapid response mechanism. And we reinvented for IDPs, for people, displaced people on move. And this is when we benefited more than 15 million people in Iraq during the war, and afterwards being applied in 6 other countries. Similar with, we created something, the voucher system for refugees, where you give them something similar to the credit card to buy their own needs, not necessarily we give them ready-made packages. It's a very dignified way to support refugees, and very cost saving as well. We saved millions of dollars by applying that approach. Maybe another example is the besieged area. I was in a context where we were besieged with vulnerable people, and all the classic emergency approaches failed. Airdrops, airlifting, humanitarian corridors, all failed. So we created something, we call it the safe haven, where all the humanitarian, they come together to deliver service for the people. So people come to the aid instead of the humanitarians, they go to them, and very deconflicted and safe area for it. And I have 10 of more examples. So somehow it's the same. My third master was driven by a question where I went to study the master and brought back to UNICEF the lessons learned and the research about the climate change. And now we are building UNICEF program related to that. And maybe championing this kind of best practices took me all around the world because I get invited to apply it globally. So I went to Darfur, Sudan for the rapid response. I went to Ukraine to apply the voucher system. I went to Yemen and Ethiopia for the BCH context and the humanitarian safe havens. And now my climate change research being adopted by the World Bank for my country, Iraq. So they have 5 years plan as a phase 1, and they are moving forward. I did the same for Syria, since I was in Syria the last year. And my recommendations being adopted by the UN Joint Program for 2024. And my PhD focus on 3 other countries. So hopefully when the research is over, I will be able also to influence these countries to take more steps toward climate change actions. So this is my way, that this is where the cycle is happening. Skills, I think the most important skills is to ask the tough question. I never hesitate to ask question, whatever is sensitive, politically sensitive, or I ask the question and I try to find out what are the theories, what are the practices around the world, and create my own blueprint so I can apply on the context that I'm trying to help. The study and the approach with the university and academia always motivate me to be seeking positive change, creative thinking, problem solving, innovation, continuous improvement. And of course, the academic life enable the person to be more analytical, improve the debate skills, ability to communicate in a very effective way. And this is where you will be a person able to influence people around you, around one vision. And that's leadership, in my opinion. So these are from my experience. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Atheer. That's absolutely phenomenal. And I think I completely agree with you. As the person that teaches the module on sustainability leadership on this course, that ability to have a vision and communicate it to others and bring others with you is so, so important. Such a vital skill. And if you're interested in learning how to do that yourself, please do sign up for the course. It is absolutely central to it. I come to you now, Etáin, again, and you're in a very different context from our previous two panelists, but there's similarities in that the skills for sustainability are now more important than ever for people in your type of role. That to have those skills, just to be able to kind of play in the sector and have access to different types, everything from like different credit to customers, etc. So, Etáin, how have the skills that you've got on the course you did? What were the skills that really stood out to you that have been helpful for you in your role?
Yeah, so for me, it was the depth of knowledge really and the leadership element. There's a lot of sustainability courses that just do sustainability. So the leadership element, and there are a lot of people in the course who weren't there yet, but you can see their personalities are going to bring them there, or there are people who are just natural leaders in the room, which is phenomenal to see. And for me, I suppose it was to, I suppose when I spoke, at board level and we're having meetings about, people bringing forward, ideas and innovation. And I was like, it's not like I want to challenge people, but I can't even help people. And I suppose we are so lucky to be in a country with good education. And we all know Nelson Mandela's quote about education is a very powerful tool that can change the world. So it would be very remiss of somebody in my position to not go and at least get the baseline education to figure out what even the discussions are to help be able to lead and guide and steer. So I suppose for me, it was that information that was just so, all encompassing and just like learning a new language, as I said before. Within about 6 weeks, we were talking about carbon footprint and circular economy and materiality and what's important. And we had a supplier come in to talk about sustainability, and they just turned around in front of the room and said, "Oh, those UN things." And I went,
"Oh no."
EG goals. And then I went, "Well, what ones have you picked? And why do you align to them?" And the whole room went silent. Everyone looked at me, and I'm like, I couldn't have had this conversation 7 weeks ago. So I think even just the confidence in a nice way, and just to go, well, look, here's what I'm learning, and I'll actually must send you some links because everybody needs to know this. And it's not about, oh, I know more than you. It's right, how can we work together? And we also find that we provide some very expensive equipment for anesthesia, ventilation, life support equipment, neonatal infant care, and we sometimes lose out on tender and price, which just drives me nuts because it's not, at the end of the day, stationary. And we provide premium product. So I wrote a whole piece in the last tender on sustainability about, this was cost of investment and life cycle of a product, and pretty much guaranteeing, you will buy this once and it will last 15, 20 years, and you'll buy something that's 20% cheaper and you'll buy 3 of them. And that's the decision. So it's also knowing to validate, why we play in this, in the space that we're in, why we don't play in certain markets. And it's to have that, I suppose, confidence. And for me, it's also sharing. I'm hugely involved in Health Tech Ireland. They've got 140 members in Ireland. They represent, so the voice of healthcare in Ireland. And it's to, attend kind of, webinars or events and learn from others. And for me, it's the postgrad level. It's just phenomenal. Everybody has a phenomenal, experience on something. And you can just reach out to a group, and even people who don't realize how good they are, which I always love at the postgrad stage, because people are just so talented at what they do, and everyone has something to bring to the table, which is, I think, really good for knowledge sharing. And there's just, we finished up Alan, was it last May, year ago, but we would still be able to touch base with that group. Like if I was looking at solar panels, going, does that, can someone help in on this, or what should I be looking for? So sometimes you come out with your strategy, or what your vision is, and when you go to operationalize it, I can't believe I said that word right. That's when sometimes you can just get tripped up, or you knew that somebody did something in the course about a specific project, because we could all share and learn from the projects that we did, and there were mini groups as well. So I just find that, that kind of pool of talent is always there. And we whether we got very fortunate in our cohort, But we also heard about this new program coming up towards the end of ours, and we're nearly like the green-eyed monster going, that program is better than our program. But I think it's comforting for anyone considering this program to know that there's been previous iterations of this. It's not plucked out of the sky. It's not just, you know, this is new and fancy. Each program has built on feedback from the previous one, and we all gave pretty detailed feedback. And so it's important, I think, for people to hear that, you know, like it's an improvement all the time, and you know, from real work experience and what was helpful or what was not. And if it's not helpful, then it's not helpful. So that would hopefully help people out to hear as well.
Thanks so much, Etáin. I think your point about making those connections, meeting new people who are willing to work together, share skills from different backgrounds, approaching different challenges in different ways, is hugely beneficial. And if you feel like you're operating sustainability on your own, something to be introduced to many people who are studying it together and have the same kind of needs and interests as you, this can be a great way of making those connections, making new friends, making new networks as well. Thank you so much, Etáin, for sharing that. Alan, over to you. Enterprise Ireland, a hugely influential organization in Ireland. And we've also seen in Ireland, through the EU and through government, a lot more kind of criteria for sustainability, more directives, more need for those sustainability skills. What skills have stood out for you that you've used from the course in your job since completing the course?
Right. Yeah. So look, there was a number of things that I took advantage of and have helped me hugely since I completed the course. I suppose it's important to say that from the outset, I don't have a formal role for sustainability in Enterprise Ireland, either internal or external with clients. But you know, when I came away from the program, it was very clear that I had a much deeper understanding of the principles and the trends in sustainability. I was able to apply evidence-based sustainability tools. I think the tools that were mentioned there were hugely beneficial, and kind of formalize your thought process to the decision-making of decisions to be taken around that area. And then stakeholder buy-in is really important. So it helped us incorporate practices in a way that we could bring it into our business and gain stakeholder buy-in. And, you know, I had three key things when I was looking back and thinking about, you know, what did I gain from this? But people have mentioned confidence. It gave me the confidence, and I'm part of the senior leadership team. But, you know, when you start talking about areas like sustainability, sometimes you step back and think, well, I'm not an authority on this, but it certainly gave me the confidence to contribute at the most senior levels. And you were coming at it from a position of credibility, having gone through a formal education program that was very grounded in practical kind of application. It enabled me to bring in lots of ideas to the table, and the ideas and the proposals were grounded in facts and backed by evidence. And then what I really enjoyed was it allowed me, in a nice way, to call out some of the greenwashing that I witnessed. And it was pretty obvious from people who are quite new to this area, they jump on a bandwagon and they ignore all the external environment and they come up with ideas. And it's when you get deeper into it, you realize that, look at buying carbon offsets, you know, to justify all the air miles that your organization put through is not actually solving the problem or addressing it. It's making you feel better. But it was a nice way to be able to bring that to their attention so they could maybe put a bit more deeper thought into proposals that were being generated. So it allowed me to become a bit of an authority in an area despite no formal role. And during the time that I spent in TU Dublin, we actually established a green team. And thankfully, they brought in people with formal education and expertise. But I was able to contribute and work with them. That was really helpful. I think I was the first person in an 800+ organization to do any postgrad sustainability course. So it enabled me to stand out from a different perspective with the senior leaders. And then what I really enjoyed was that the client base I had at the time, I was in the startup division. I was working with industrial, life science, consumer products, clean tech, and I was able to bring that to the conversation at the very start. So as they were formulating their ideas, bringing their innovations to commercial reality, we were able to talk about, how this fits in the circular economy or in broader sustainability principles and how it applies. And then after working with them and maybe going to our investment committee for a decision to invest, our investment committee had never even thought about sustainability. And right smack bang in the middle of our program, our government produced their first update to the Enterprise and Climate Action Plan. And they had a white paper on enterprise, which is like a Bible for an organization like Enterprise Ireland. And buried in there was a really, really strong nugget that for the first time in a 75-year history, we were being told by the government that carbon abatement in proposals looking for funding would be ranked as high as job creation. Now, that is an incredible move because 99% of the motivation for us getting involved was more jobs in Ireland. This was now ranking the carbon abatement attached to that proposal right up there at the highest level. So that for me was really, really timely, and it was very helpful when looking for investments and making those decisions. So it's enabled me to maybe affect some change. We've run incredibly fast over the last 12 to 18 months in adopting new sustainable principles internally, and also providing offers and supports backed by the EU for our clients to adopt more sustainable methods. And overall, it's been just the timing was perfect. And I think we're only at the start of this, despite the dangers and the challenges we all face globally in terms of trying to build up a base or pool of leaders right across industry. This is only really beginning. So it's a great opportunity for anyone considering it.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Alan. A couple of your points there that are just so important, I think. Absolutely. This kind of credential, this kind of learning experience is never not going to be valuable for you. Sustainability is never going away. It's not ever going to be out of date. It's going to be so valuable to you for the rest of your career. And also, I think your important point is you do not need to be in a sustainability role. You don't need to have sustainability in your job title for this to be incredibly valuable to you. Because sustainability is so important across so many areas, so many functions, whether that be private organizations, NGOs, all of them, it's valuable for everyone to have, no matter what your role is. Thank you so much for sharing that with us, Alan. Julie, I might just come back to you for a question. We've got just 2 or 3 more minutes. So I'm going to ask some very short, kind of cheeky questions before I go back. I throw back to Emma in a second for some information about scholarships on the course. But can you tell us a little bit, Julia, about the experience of learning online? Our Masters in Global Sustainability Leadership is an asynchronous online course. How did you find the online classroom? What was that like for you?
I found it to be incredibly powerful. All of my education had been up to that point done either in South Africa or here in the US. And my undergraduate education had been completed here in the US in a classroom with fellow students. And I would say that this master's degree program was actually in many ways just as powerful, possibly even more powerful, because I was the only American in my cohort. And having the perspective of hearing from all of my other students, particularly regarding their opinions about the US relative to things like our approach to climate change, was extraordinarily beneficial. And that really solidified for me this commitment on my part to only move forward with my humanitarian organization using climate smart technology. I think I really needed to have that affirmation coming from all of my fellow students who are located all over the world to say, yes, that's exactly the approach that we would want you to be taking. Again, I just need to say that I think sometimes here, the educational system in the US has a sort of insular nature to it. And I found this approach to be far more expansive in the sense that I was hearing so many different perspectives that I probably would not have heard if I had actually even attended an online master's degree program here in the US.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely fantastic. The value of those global experiences and perspectives are absolutely phenomenal. I completely agree. Thank you for sharing that, Julia. Guys, what we're going to do now is I'm going to hand it back over to Emma. She's going to tell you about the scholarships availability on this course. Can you have a think about questions for our panelists? We'll have about 10 minutes for a bit of a Q&A. So put them in the chat. And while Emma's talking, I'm going to be having a little bit of a look through them. So do put questions in the chat for our panelists. So Emma, I'll hand back over to you.
Thank you, Kieran, and thank you so much to our panelists. That was a really interesting and engaging discussion, and I think highlighting the value and the opportunities to develop skills that are going to facilitate your leadership in sustainability in whatever role, whatever institution that you're in. And I really liked, Etáin, your example of being able to put in a tender a part about sustainability and the economic and the business case for sustainability. And it reminded me of a quote from Frank Elderson, who is one of the executive board members of the European Central Bank, and he was discussing the importance of biodiversity and of the environment for the economy. And there was some pushback on those comments, and he came back and said, this is not some flower power tree hugging exercise. This is core economics. So there really is no trade-off between the economy and the environment, as people may have previously thought. So anyway, I just thought that was a nice comment to share with you. So leading on from our discussion and those insights into the power and the benefits from taking master's programs or further education in sustainability and leadership, we are really hoping that, and I know many of you from the chat are saying that you will be applying and enrolling, and that's great. And I can see there's some questions coming in as well about how to apply for the scholarships and what the scholarship offering is. So let me just outline the scholarships that we have on offer. So we have 2 partial scholarships, which give you a 50% reduction in fees on the program. Now, if you look at our website, you'll see that the full fees for the 2-year program are €15,000. However, it's important to note that we do have a number of flexible payment options. So there is the opportunity, and I said in the chat, I think Alan mentioned that, when he was looking at going back and gaining some qualification and education in sustainability, he didn't want to go into a longer term program, so he chose the 1-year option. There is an option if you apply and are accepted onto the MA of exiting after 1 year with a postgraduate certificate in global sustainability leadership. So if you were to avail of that option, the fees then would be the lesser amount of €5,400 for the postgraduate certificate, and TU Dublin have the option to pay your fees in 3 installments over an academic year. So it breaks it down into much smaller, more manageable parts. But on top of that, we do have these 2 50% scholarships available. To apply for the scholarship, you must first apply and be accepted onto the program. So I have already posted those application links in the chat, but maybe one of my colleagues, Anna or Kieran, will post those links into the chat for you. So there's 2 different links, depending on, I think most attendees are probably based outside of the European Union. So there's a non-EU applicant link. There's also, I know we have people joining us from Austria and Germany, there's an EU applicant link for those who are based in the EU. So you apply for the program. Once you're accepted onto the program, then you can apply to be considered for the scholarship. So we will send you a link to an application form for the scholarship, and really our criteria for the scholarships are, we very much value a diverse student cohort, diversity of opinions and of perspectives. And I think Julia mentioned how she really valued that on her UNITAR program as the only American or dual citizen, American, South African. those perspectives from students, all around the globe, really added value for her on the program, and that's something TU Dublin and UNITAR very much value. And so our criteria will be based on increasing the diversity and making the masters inclusive. But within that, we imagine we'll have high demand for the program and for the scholarships. So within that criteria, we'll also be looking at academic merit in awarding those final 2 scholarships. So I can see that there are some questions coming in on the chat. So we can look at putting some of those to our panelists, or we will also answer any program specific questions a member of our program team will answer. So maybe we'll throw it back to you, Kieran, to if there's any final questions to ask our panelists.
I think the majority of the questions are about the scholarships and the program itself, which have been answered, which is great. So what I think I'll do is I'm just going to go around each of our panelists and ask them each put them on the spot and ask them each for just a take-home final message for the participants on the call. Just like a 1 sentence or 2, answer the question. Why should you study sustainability leadership? Why should people interested do this course? I'll start with you, Julia. I'll put you on the spot first.
Oh my goodness, absolutely. I, without a doubt, believe that this is the most important issue of our time. I think that up until this point, we've almost addressed the issue of climate and sustainability in a siloed fashion and not necessarily thought about integrating it into everything that we're doing. I think that this current moment in the planet's history demands that. And so what I am so excited about with this program is that I think it is literally training this next generation of leaders to do exactly that. And I think it is absolutely critical for our survival and addressing all of the issues of global inequity and also the planet's survival.
Brilliant. Thank you, Julia. Atheer, same question to you. Take home message for our audience. Why should they study global sustainability leadership?
I think what Julie said is exactly will be the answer from my side. If you want to take it from the humanitarian perspective, there is a scarcity in every approach, even in funding. If we look on the humanitarian fund that was provided to Bosnia, for example, in the 90s, and compare it to the emergencies we have in these days, there's no comparison. The fund is not as used to be. Beside the number of emergencies that we have is not like before. If you combine man-made disasters and also the climate disasters, typhoons and floods and whatever, and even the waterborne diseases, as much as we thought that in technology and in public health and all the advances that have been done by the human beings that we'll be able to recover all these kind of diseases within the time. It's the other way around. I was asked to go to Pakistan for a short assignment to help them with the polio. Polio eradication in Pakistan was completely successful just 5 years ago. And now with the Afghanis crossing the border, they have another outbreak there. So the sustainability is the only way around. We have to do more with less. And the only way to do that is through sustainability and durable solutions. And enable to deliver such big titles like joint programs, sustainability, durable solutions, investment in childhood, etc. You need a proper vision and leadership for that. So it comes together, it combines, you cannot split it. And there is no way better than studying that, because there are so many theories and good practices being applied globally. And there's no one size fits all. You need to study all in order to generate the proper solution for the context you are trying to help with. Of course, online programming is much useful. And for me, it was the only solution that I had. When I enrolled in the last master for the climate change, I was at the border with DRC fighting Ebola, living in a tent. My most concern was malaria for the third time. So without the online approach, without knowing my timetable in advance, the deliverable in advance, and able to work around so I can study and work at the same time, that will not be possible. And reaching back to UNITAR and the university whenever the support is needed, also something that you cannot have it when you are in campus. So I highly encourage our colleagues, our brothers and sisters in the call to look on the links being shared. It's really transformational to study sustainability and leadership.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that phenomenal answer, Atheer. I think definitely next time I get a complaint from a student, I'm going to say Atheer did it while sleeping in a tent fighting Ebola. So thank you so much for your incredible experience sharing with us today. Etáin, same question to you. I feel bad for you, Etáin. You're always going after Atheer. But why?
I know, I'm like this like global scale, and then I just reel it back and make it so local and small.
But no, it's perfect, but it shows the breadth of this.
I mean, everybody makes their impact in whatever way. I mean, for me,
absolutely
non-impactful as it sounds, it's those profound questions.
Yeah.
If you, then who? If not now, then when? Who
absolutely
you to do it? It's fundamental. There's no planet B. You know, I mean, I did this course. It was insane time at work. I've got 3 kids, aged 10 and under. I did one module sitting at the ends of the stairs while one of them was reading a story to the other. It's all doable. It's how important it is and what you feel is worth doing. Anyone who's dialed into this clearly cares enough about it. And you either prove that you care to yourself, if not even, and you know, there are some people on our course who want to do this for their own information. There are some people who are on our course who didn't have jobs, and by the end of it, they had jobs in sustainability. There are other ones who realized they did really good projects, brought them to the board, and they were like, you know what, we're not interested. And they left their companies because they realized the sustainability that is so core to them wasn't actually being reflected by the companies that were actually greenwashing, like what Alan was talking about. So for me, it's as simple as that. If not who, if not now, then when.
Thank you so much. I love that. Thank you, Etáin. And Alan, same final question to you.
Not a lot I can add. I am a great believer in leading by example, and I know that without exception, if you are prepared to put the effort in and undertake the course in the right manner, it will change you both professionally and personally. And it is ultimately an opportunity to become a credible thought leader in your private and professional lives.
Fantastic, Alan. I agree with you. I agree with all our panelists. I think there's something special about studying sustainability and sustainability leadership. It can change the way you think about things and absolutely magnify your impact in whatever you're doing, even in your personal life, in your career. It's phenomenal. Like I just want to say, I'm going to hand it back to Emma for the final word, but just a massive thank you to our incredible panelists. It's been fantastic moderating this panel, and thank you guys so much, and the width and breadth of your experiences are amazing. So Emma, back over to you for final bit.
Thank you, Kieran, and thank you so much to our panelists and to all the participants. There's been lots of activity in the chat, and I think we've managed to get back to everyone on their questions and comments. So I suppose just to kind of outline a couple of key questions that have been popping up in the chats. Unfortunately, there aren't any full scholarships available, so it's 2 partial scholarships, and you need to apply and be accepted onto the program in order to apply for those scholarships. Also to note, the criteria for entry onto the program is a 2-2 degree in any discipline. So as you can tell, it's an interdisciplinary program. So you don't need to have any particular background to be eligible for the program. And the online classroom is going to ensure that we have a diversity of perspectives, that we have a global cohort, but it also provides the part-time online. It's asynchronous by design, so it allows you to build your learning around your other commitments, and we've got full flexibility, but also lots of opportunities for engagement, for live but recorded webinars, and as you can see, it's possible to have lots of interaction, even just through the chat across the globe. So really lovely to hear where everyone was joining us from, and thank you for those of you who introduced yourselves and told us about your background, some really interesting backgrounds as well. So we really do hope that we will be welcoming a lot of you into the classroom in September. So Anna is posting in the chat, but just to clarify, we will follow up with a link, a recording of the webinar if you want to have a listen back. And we will also share the links to apply for the program, and we'll also be offering the opportunity for you, if you have any remaining questions, to have a one-on-one chat with one of the program team members. So my email address is there. As I mentioned at the start, I am the TU Dublin program chair for the program, but my counterpart Alexandra is the program chair from UNITAR for the program. So if you would like to contact either of us and request a one-to-one chat, we would be very happy to answer any remaining questions that you have. So thank you again to all our panelists and to you for attending. And sorry, one final thing. Our webinar, we do have one more webinar in our series last week. I almost forgot. What reminded me is somebody asked about the employment opportunities from participating in the program. So our webinar next Tuesday, which will also be included, an invite will be included on the email that Anna sends you in the next couple of days. Our final webinar will focus on the benefits for both employers, but also for you in terms of your own personal career development from taking the master's program. And we have some really exciting speakers at that as well. So we would love to see you again next Tuesday. And in the meantime, please do get in contact if you have any questions. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Take care.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.